Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach the Bible in 100% truth, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of North, Central, and South America, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners who look like the other nations, living amongst the other nations, whose bloodline go back to the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who received this word. Shalom to you. Okay, today back on the topic of the MOTB. And if you don't understand what the acronym for the MOTB is, you can see it written on the screen. And, we have to mind out with certain language that we use. It will be triggered by the algorithm of the YouTube. So, this is the next major prophecy we're waiting for. It's about to take place. We're in the time now where changes are being made to bring about this particular prophecy, and they're happening thick and fast. And when you look in the chapter of Revelation, chapter 13, it reads about a worldwide monetary change taking place, and it says that no man will be able to buy or sell without receiving the MOTB. And so on the screen you can see a brief adaptation of what's included with this MOTB: your financial status, identification, and as well as access to things, access to your car, access to buildings, and so on and so forth. And so with that, this is all bringing about the prophecy of the MOTB. This is a picture of what it looks like in reality, rather than an image. And this particular thing can be placed in any part of the body. 9 times out of 10, you see it placed in the hand, in between the thumb. I think it's in the first finger, basically. I can't remember the particular name of it, and this is what it is. So, before we get into the scriptures, we're going to look at a couple of articles. I've got an article here today. You see, what you got to understand is, according to the scriptures, we can identify the MOTB as something that is a monetary change. And when you look out now on the financial scene, you'll see things like the CBDC, central bank digital currency, and you'll see all these things happening with digital currencies, these changes taking place, and eventually this will filter its way down to you and I on street level, and then you'll be told to in order to buy or sell, you have to enter this digital economy. And so to access the digital economy, that's when you'll be told to take these MOTB. So the scriptures describe it as a monetary change, but there's also there's many other aspects to it. When you look at the powers that be and the messages that are coming along with this change, there are other things included. For example, if you look up the Great Reset here, you can look up the Great Reset. This is on Wikipedia, and the Great Reset is an economic recovery plan drawn up by the World Economic Forum in response to, I'm not going to read that word, the events that took place in 2020, 2021. The project was launched in June 2020 with a video featuring the then Prince of Wales, Charles, released to mark its launch. The initiative stated aim to facilitate rebuilding from the global crisis 2020-2021 in a way that prioritizes sustainable development. So you've got this reset taking place between 2020 and 2030. They're labeling it as a recovery plan for the events that took place in 2020 and 2021. And the events that took place in 2020 and 2021 are really propelling the world economic system into destruction. With inflation, they've really propelled it. So they're using that as an excuse to say, we've now got this economic recovery plan, which they're drawing up, which is a digital recovery plan. And then it says at the bottom, the initiative stated aim to facilitate rebuilding in a way that prioritizes sustainable development. So there's a lot of talk about carbon footprint and what you're using, and 15-minute cities, and containing people. Ultimately what they want is total control. The powers that be, the banking elites, they want total control over the world. Now they have that in a financial sense already, but they want to take it to a physical level where they, pretty much entrap you into a certain area, give you 15-minute cities. That's something that you can look up. And, then they want to read your biometrics and take it to a deeper level in that particular manner. Looking up the word biometric. So you type into Google biometrics, it says biometrics are body measurements and calculations related to human characteristics. So, they want to totally control you to the point where they pretty much have you living within a particular area. You don't leave that particular area. And then they want to take it further where they want to, measure, biometrics, it says here, are body measurements. So they want to read your body measurements and calculations related to human characteristics. So they want to know your moods, how you're feeling. And when the government send out a particular message to the masses of people, they want to know how the people feel about it. So, this all comes back to total control. And it says here, biometric authentication is used in computer science as a form of identification and access control. It also used to identify individuals in groups that are under surveillance. So, when you've got the word biometric, you have the word body measurements and human characteristics. You then have the word authentication. So this is, used for you to authenticate who you are. And it says here access control. And also the word surveillance. These are words that are linked with biometric. And this is what they're going to be doing. So, they'll give you this particular item, the MOTB, and they'll say you cannot buy or sell without it. But it goes much deeper than that. They want total control. They want to read your biometric measurements and characteristics. And they pretty much want to hijack the role of Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, the Most High. That's something, that particular power, that particular option of being able to read everybody on the planet Earth, read their moods and their attitude from within their mind. That particular power is only given to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. So these Edomites ultimately want to hijack that particular role, and they want to be the Most High themselves. So this MOTB, they've got this whole system set up. They've gone through their iconoclasm. They've set up their false idols and their false gods, and they've painted the image of Yahweh Shai in their own image. So they've pretty much forever been trying to take over the world and be the Most High of the world. And so the final jigsaw piece to that is all this technology and giving you the RFID chip, telling you you can't enter their financial system without it. And then once you're in that, you've got no choice but to take it. They then have control over reading your characteristics, your measurements, so on and so forth. And who knows what they can do from there. So biometric is a big thing. Biometric systems are using personal characteristics directly linked to who you are to authenticate or identify a person. A system collects biometric characteristics unique to every person. These biometric characteristics are directly linked to verify or identify the individual. And when you look at it, it says what is biometric examples for quick biometric definition. Biometrics are biological measurements or physical characteristics that can be used to identify individuals. For example, fingerprint mapping, facial recognition, and retina scans are all forms of biometric technology, but these are just the most recognized options. Now, when you look into it, when you think about it, they've already got you. They already taken your biometric measurements currently in the form of, for example, you have a passport or you have a driver's license, and that driver's license will have a picture of your face. So that's technically a biometric measurement. So when you're pulled over by police, for example, if you don't have, sometimes I don't have my license on me. I don't really carry my license, especially if I'm going to work. And the reason is because they'll say, well, have you got your license? I say, no, I don't. So how can we identify you're the owner of this car? And then I'll pull out my work ID. I say, well, I'm on my way to work, and my work has a picture of me with that name imprinted next to it, same name that it would be on my license. So I say, well, this is me. And you can tell because that picture is a biometric measurement of who I am. And they look at it and they look at my face, and they do the work that the computer would be doing in the future, where I process it and analyzing the picture and looking at my face and saying, yeah, we can accept that as identification. So that usually at that point they say, yeah, you can have that back. We believe you are the person who you say you are, and who then happens to be the owner of this car. They can then look up my insurance, so on and so forth. So, technically what's happening at the minute is a biometric measurement is taking place. But, ultimately they want to transfer that onto a digital format. And, without having, they always tell you that, robots will take our jobs in the future. Well, they will, because, you'll just be able to walk into a store and the computer will, scan your face, know who you are. So even if you go into the store and, create havoc, they know who you are already, even if you don't scan your hand. But you have to scan your hand actually to get into the building. So they're already going to know who you are. So even the facial recognition, I mean, they might have some of that, dotted about here and there, but really ultimately it's going to be that MOTB in your hand. And so every building you enter, everywhere you travel, every time your heart rate goes up, they know about it. They want to hijack the role of Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai. It says here also known as digital passports are more commonly known as e-passports. Biometric passports are similar to ordinary paper passports, with one special exception. Embodied in the front cover, e-passports contain a microchip that houses biometric information like photos, fingerprints, or iris scans. So if you've got an e-passport, it's pretty much got a microchip in there, and this contains biometric information. So it's already happening, and it's just the technology is well on the way. We're very far down the road. The next step is to take these microchips with these informations, the one that you have in your phone, the one you have in your e-passport, the one you have in your credit cards, and so on and so forth. All these different things, they want to merge it into one, and get you to take that particular one microchip. Human augmentation. Before I jump into the particular article, human augmentation. So this MOTB goes deeper than just buying or selling. It goes into reading your human characteristics and having total control over you. So you can look up human augmentation, and a lot of people, they refer to this kind of information as conspiracy theory. Well, this website is gov.uk. This is the same place you visit. If I were to buy road tax or apply for a driver's license, so on and so forth, where would I have to go? I'd have to go to gov.uk. This is the government website. This is literally the website of the British government. And you look up human augmentation, the dawn of a new paradigm, and you'll come across this particular article here. So human augmentation, we'll look up the description in a minute, but it's pretty much developing the human body into some sort of futuristic human body, in order to develop the human to make you say a stronger, more powerful human, if you like. For example, with eyesight, if they're giving you laser eye surgery, this is the kind of thing they're talking about in order to improve your eyesight. And in a way in which they will sell this particular thing is to say we can repair ailments in particular people. This is an example of what human augmentation is. From wearing glasses to improve your eyesight to wearing contact lenses, and eventually you have laser eye surgery, so you don't need the glasses or the contact lenses. And if you want to take it a step further, you can use binoculars. So now you can see further than the average human being, and you can wear night vision goggles, and that allows you to see in the dark. And ultimately, if you want to be able to do these things without having these particular gadgets, you need you need to be gene edited for enhanced sight. So this is an example of what human augmentation is. And this is what the government, the message, this is what they believe in, this is the future that they see. This particular article's been up for 2 years. So, the powers that be, if somebody was to hijack the government website and hack into it and put this information up and make it seem, like it's true, they'd quickly pull it down. But this information's been up for a few years, and nobody's taking it down. This is the government, and this is their plan. And you can see this particular lady here. What she's doing, she's browsing the internet, and apart from the instrument strapped to her head, you can't see any particular device in front of her. Yet she's scrolling her finger, she's checking her messages, so on and so forth. So you may say, these things seem far-fetched, but this is the technology that the government are trying to introduce to you. This is external brain interfaces, and your interface. When you're on your PC, on your desktop, on the laptop, what you're seeing on the screen, the little box with your messages in. You click this one and it opens that. You click this and it opens up Word. Click another one, it opens up PowerPoint. This is all your interface. What you're looking at on the screen is your interface, and what they want to do, they want to ultimately take you from this virtual reality headsets that you can see now on the screen, and they want to put you into this internet world where you can see everything without these objects attached to you. And this is one way in which they're going to control you and keep you within these 15-minute cities. They're going to say, if you want to visit friends and family far away, you can do it online, and you'll be able to see people in front of you and interact with them. And that's what the article I've got today is about. But before I bounce to that, I want to show you one more image, which this is page 46. So just to put the cherry on the top, we have this particular image here. So this is all on this particular article, humanaugmentation.gov UK. And you scroll down to page 62. This is body hacking, DIY augmentation. So these are forms of having microchips placed within the hand, and ultimately, what they do in this particular article, they discuss people who were having this done around the world, and they talk about having to standardize it and bring it all under one umbrella so it can be recognized wherever you go. And ultimately, that's what the government are there to do. They're there to standardize everything. So you'll have all these companies coming out with their versions of the MOTB, and the government will standardize it. And that's why now you're seeing things like the CBDC, and that's becoming a name which will be recognized with the standardization of the MOTB. So yeah, this is human augmentation, something you've got to understand. Looking at this article, this is wired.com. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole article, but I will read the first section, and I'll leave the link in the description box. Now, what I just explained a minute ago, going from the reality headset to the point at which the lady is scrolling around on the internet with no particular objects in her hand, and this is the end goal. So there has to be like a points in between which we hit to lead us up to that point, and it says here, this article here now is discussing the next type of headset produced by Apple. Now, this particular headset here, you can scroll on the internet and see what you need to see, your inbox and everything. But you can also see the room around you in which you live in. So, for example, if your relative were to jump online, this is how they're going to have it in the end. You're going to say, I need to see my relative who lives 200 miles away. You live inside a 15-minute city, so you're not allowed to leave. So you'll have to go online and you'll be able to use these glasses and you'll be able to see your own room and you'll be able to see your relative go online and see them enter into your room. And this is building us up to the point at which the last picture we saw with the lady scrolling around, this is like a stepping stone towards that. This is dated the 5th of June. It says Apple's mixed reality headset Vision Pro is here. After taking a years-long wait and see approach, Apple is now all in on a new platform. Apple finally unveiled its plans for a mixed reality wearable computer today at WWDC, its annual software conference. So this is a mixed reality wearable computer. This is what this is. So it's a computer that you wear and it mixes the computer with reality. The headset names, this all goes back to things like the metaverse. Facebook changing their name to metaverse, whatever you want to call it. The headset named Apple Vision Pro has been in the works for years, with Apple taking its familiar wait and see approach, while other giant tech companies have divided headfirst into a still kludgy AR VR market. I'm not quite sure what they're trying to say there. The new platform and headset have massive implications for the rest of the market, because once Apple wades into a product category, it often both validates the category and obviates competitors. Recently, a report from Bloomberg suggested that top Apple executives have been at odds over the positioning of and release of this headset. None of that tension was apparent on stage today when Apple chief executive Tim Cook showed off the device in a Prepad demo video. It's the first product you look through and not at. So you don't look at this particular product like you would look at a computer screen or look at your phone. You look through it and you can see the room around you and everything around you, but you can also see the screen at the same time. It mixes the computer with reality. And Cook said, you can see, hear, and act with digital content like it's in your physical space. You are no longer limited by a display. You can relive your most important memories in an entirely new way, Cook added. Apple Vision Pro will introduce spatial computing, similar to the way the iPhone introduced mobile computing, he said. So, what they're saying, this is the same way that, the iPhone had a big change on the way we use our phones. We now have computers, mini computers as phones. They're saying that this will be the next step where, for example, imagine you took a video 15 years ago of your little child when they was like 2 years old, and now you want to watch that video. So you put the headset on, you watch the video, and you'll be in the video. So it's taking it to another level where you're now almost kind of interacting with the video that you took. And when this is obviously looking at the past, but when you look into the future, then they're going to be linking it, eventually to linking up. When, like I say, when you want to meet up with a member of your family, they're going to say no need to leave your 15-minute city. You just put one of these on and you can interact with your relative. And then, like I say, eventually that diagram, that picture, we saw on .gov.uk, you're going to eventually get to that level where they keep putting things inside you and they build up their technology to the point where you won't even need these particular glasses. But this is a stepping stone. You can see on here, this is what she's wearing. This is a stepping stone into that direction. The MOTB is the digitization of the monetary system, but it's also the digitization of human reality. As previously reported, the Apple headset allows the wearer to see the real or physical world around them, unlike VR headsets that fully envelope the face and limit visibility. There's a floating home view visible as soon as the wearer straps it on, and scenes in the Pretapad video showed a person wearing the headset walking around their home, grabbing a sparkling water from the fridge, indicating that the company expects people will wear this part of their day to day during long flights. So they pretty much expect you to be wearing this all the time. And there's no way you're going to do that. But eventually, like I say, this is a stepping stone to having all the technology within you. Don't forget, that what they were trying to put in you in 2020 and 2021, they were trying to put something in you. And I brought it out a few years ago that, before the scientists did, I brought it out, the fact that they're trying to create circuitry within your body. And so, we have the next thing planned for 2025. Whatever happened in 2020 and 21, they're saying that the next one is coming in 2025. And don't be surprised if once that happens, there are more things happening inside people. They put something inside you, and people start having all these health issues because they're developing technology and editing your genes within you. And it's called human augmentation, all to read your biometrics and have you up on that MOTB system. So the headset features 4K display, infrared cameras, LED illuminators. Company executives also remarked many times that the field of view isn't limited, which means it's likely not using the waveguide lens technology common on other augmented reality headsets, which refract light and cast virtual objects into the wearer's eyes. So what they're saying is they're saying because you can see all around you and there's no restriction, you're not really going to get reflection into the eyes and so on and so forth. So it's not going to be a hazard at any particular point. They're going to make it so that it seamlessly blends in with the surroundings around you. And it's running on Apple's M2 chip. Oh, another chip. See, all these chips need to be blended into one. They need to edit your DNA and blend all these chips into one, as well as new mixed reality specific RI chip. Here's another chip. One of the notable features of the Vision Pro headset is its small dial, which lets wearers alternate between mixed reality mode, seeing more of the real world, and virtual reality mode, which offers more interface computing. It also relies on voice input, including Siri, to open and close apps and play media. In the Pretapad demo of the new headset, no hand controllers were used. Tiny spatial, whatever they are, audio speakers are nestled in the soft headband. As previously reported, the Vision Pro is equipped with an external battery pack, similar to how other augmented reality headsets, such as Nreal's glasses and Magic Leap's headsets, have been designed. This sometimes makes for a clunky experience overall, but it means the headset is lighter. Apple also emphasized the Vision Pro's app experience. It's touting a new technology. To call it new is almost humorous, called eyesight. When someone is nearby, they'll suddenly appear in your view, even if you're using the headset in a more immersive mode. There's also the option to capture a spatial photo or video from directly within the headset thanks to a built-in 3D camera. So they're pretty much taking, your phone and wrapping it around your face. And eventually, they're not going to need that technology. Like I said, I'll leave the link for this in the description box, so I'm not going to go deeper into that. But, going back, the government, they're the overseers of all of this. And what are they telling you? They're telling you about human augmentation. And I want to just get back to that particular photo with that particular lady. And like I say, the Apple headset is pretty much a stepping stone. to what you're going to see here, computer brain interface. And this is going to be you. You'll be, if you enter this system living on the MOTB, you'll be using that microchip in your hand to buy and sell. You'll be living within your 15-minute city. You won't have an iPhone. You won't have a computer. And you won't even have this headset. You'll just have like this lady. I don't know what it is, that technology that they've got strapped to her head, but I'm pretty sure eventually they can reduce the size of that and they can do away with it altogether. And like I say, that's why we're trying to input things into you 2021, 22, and they'll be coming back at you with it in the future. So this is the MOTB. I mean, what we're really worried about is we're worried about the fact of when they make it mandatory to buy or sell. If you're a member of the elect, and if you can go without this technology quite easily, quite happily, and even if it meant that you have no access to the internet, we'd quite happily go along with it if you're hoping to be a member of the elect. But the point we're worried about is when it comes to the point at which you can't buy or sell without it, and that's why the scriptures mention that, because that's the bit it's going to be detrimental, because we're obviously going to struggle to buy food and so on and so forth. So that's the point at which your faith needs to be sky high, and you need to be calling on the name Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai for deliverance. It's the only thing that's going to see you through. These banking elites are pretty much the Gene Hackman, the Lex Luthor of this world. When you watch the Superman films, you have this character Lex Luthor, played by Gene the Hackman, and Superman is there to pretty much save the earth, and the Superman represent the elect. And don't forget when the members of the elect are delivered in the chariot, in the so-called UFO, they'll be beamed back down with spiritual power. And they'll be changed in an instant. And then they'll have to go around the world and clean up and fix everything up and establish the kingdom of heaven. So, as a hopeful member of the elect, you're hoping to live through Jacob's trouble, live through that time of the MOTB, be delivered, and have that instant change. And, what the scriptures are telling you is that, if you take the MOTB in between now and then, and you're hoping to be a member of the elect, that MOTB is pretty much kryptonite to that idea. It's just going to kill it. And so you should look at that MOTB as kryptonite. And, you should look at yourself, if you're a hopeful member of the elect, as somebody who's waiting to get back the Superman powers. This Lex Luthor, his diabolical plan was to take over the world. And that's the plan of the banking elites. They want total control. And scriptures tell you, if these banking elites, they know the scriptures. If they could get every member of the nation of Israel to take this MOTB, they would break prophecy, and there would be no elect. And then with that, none of these other prophecies would be able to take place, and they could fulfill their diabolical plan to have total control over the earth. But that's not going to happen. Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai is going to raise a standard. He's going to lift up and put a spirit upon the members of the elect, and they're going to be able to say no to that kryptonite. But you got to understand the position that you play in this. A lot of Israelites are going to take the MOTB. They're going to take that kryptonite, and eventually they will receive spiritual power in the kingdom of heaven. But in the meantime, they're going to have to go through Jacob's trouble. They're going to have to go through the judgment, die in the destruction, especially if they take that kryptonite, and they're going to have to be reborn in the kingdom of heaven. Hold their head down for a little while, because they're going to regret taking that kryptonite, and eventually they'll be able to smile. But if you don't want to go through that, you're hoping to be a member of the elect. You need to avoid the MOTB, which is a hard thing to do when you have false prophets out there. So before I go, we bounce into one more. We'll bounce into a scripture. Sorry, this is Zechariah chapter 13. This is false prophets ashamed, because there's prophets out here telling you to avoid the MOTB and telling you what it is. It's, the microchips, so on and so forth. And then there's prophets out here which are being heard, in great number, and they are saying, the MOTB is not the microchip. So what does that mean? If the MOTB is not the microchip, when the microchip is made mandatory, am I allowed to take it? So this is the question. And, we've been telling you, we've been warning you that a time's going to come when, all truth will be made clear. And Zechariah 13, chapter 13, gives you an idea in what's going to happen in the day of the MOTB. Zechariah 13:1, and it says, "In that day there shall be a fountain opened to the house of David and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem." So pretty much all of Israel. There will be a fountain open to all of Israel for sin and for uncleanness. So this fountain, the truth is represented by living water. And, but this particular fountain, which is on offer to all of the children of Israel at the minute, is a fountain which has truth in it, which is living water, the fact that you are an Israelite, so on and so forth. But there are lies and untruths mixed in within those particular messages of these false prophets. So that then makes this water unclean and for sin. And, pretty much, because obviously by not breaking down the scriptures correctly, ultimately they're propelling sin. They're getting their congregation to take part in sin by not understanding, the laws and commandments and so on and so forth, the scriptures themselves. 13:2 says, "And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols out of the land, and they shall no more be remembered. And also I will cause the prophets and the unclean spirit to pass out of the land," because it is that unclean spirit that is on these false prophets. 13:3 speaks, "And it shall come to pass that when they shall yet prophesy, then his father and his mother that begat him shall say unto him, Thou shalt not live, for thou speakest lies in the name of the Lord. And his father and his mother that begat him shall thrust him through when he prophesieth." Now, that's something that obviously would have taken place, more likely to take place in ancient times. I mean, today, the world that we're living in, that's not likely something to happen, especially with the way that the law is set up under these Edomites, current day system, with child protection services, so on and so forth. So, the false prophets that are about today, that have, been brought back through the Spirit, through spiritual reincarnation, regeneration, they're back on the earth today for these end times. And, the likelihood is that their mother and father have not thrust them through for prophesying falsely in the name of Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai. So, these false prophets are growing up to be big men, and they have their own camps and they have their own uniforms, and they'll bring all sorts of paraphernalia to the congregation to make them look powerful, and they build up their numbers, and they have big followers, big numbers of followers, so on and so forth. And in this current day, it's the time of Jacob's trouble, the time of the MOTB, that's going to distinguish who they really are. There's no parents out here that are thrusting through their children for prophesying falsely in the name of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. So Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai is going to do that himself. Come the time of Jacob's trouble. When those MOTB gets made mandatory, this microchip, there's going to be no more false lies. They're not going to be able to twist their lies anymore regarding the false breakdown of this MOTB. "And it shall come to pass in that day that the prophets shall be ashamed, every one of his vision, when he hath prophesied. Neither shall they wear a rough garment to deceive." So, these false prophets are going to be ashamed. In the day of the MOTB, when that microchip gets made mandatory, it's going to be apparent that, GMS have been pushing this message for a long time, and all these other camps that go against it, it's going to be apparent that they've, not been speaking in the name of the Lord. And that's when the shame comes. It says here that the prophets shall be ashamed, every one of his vision. Because, these false prophets are having these particular visions, The MOTB is not the microchip, it's this. The MOTB is sin, and it's whatever else. And these are men of the Lord, so-called men of the Lord. So they pose as men of the Lord, and so their congregation believe that they have visions, and this is why they speak those particular breakdowns of the MOTB. And it's going to become apparent that these are false visions, and as it says, and it shall come to pass that the prophets shall be ashamed, every one of his vision, when he hath prophesied. Neither shall they wear a rough garment to deceive. Because at the minute, we bring out the information that the MOTB is the microchip. We provide evidence, and what these other camps do, they twist and turn. Every time they're put on the spot and they ask particular questions, they find that they feel like they have room to maneuver, to shift about and shift the argument about, and try to deflect from the fact that the MOTB is the microchip. But in that day, when it gets made mandatory, there's going to be no room for maneuver. These false prophets are going to be ashamed because they're not going to know how to twist the argument anymore. It's going to be made mandatory. All the people of the earth are going to be told, you can't buy or sell without this particular thing. And their congregation will be questioning them, saying, you said it was this, you said it was something else. And they're going to have to, they're not going to be able to lie anymore. They're not going to be able to wear any rough garment to deceive. They're going to have to just lay it out plain on the table and say, look, I got it wrong. I'm not a man of the Lord. The men of GMS had it right. And it says here the word ashamed. Zechariah 13:5 says, but he shall say, I am no prophet. I am an husbandman. For man taught me to keep cattle from my youth. So, that's the point at which they're going to say to you, well, I'm not a prophet, because at the minute, these other camps that are breaking the MOTB to be something else other than the microchip, they're going 100 miles an hour at it. They're going full pelt, and there's a lot of people that follow them and listen to them and believe on them. And so when it does get made mandatory, when there is a microchip and it is mandatory to have this particular thing to buy or sell, the game's going to be up. So at that point, they're going to have no room for maneuver when it comes to argumenting, and they're going to be ashamed, and they're going to have to say, look, I'm no prophet, I'm just a husbandman. For man taught me to keep cattle from my youth. These false prophets are going to be looking for 9 to 5s. And it's going to be the time of Jacob's trouble, and they're going to be out there looking for a 9 to 5, saying, don't ask me no more questions about the Lord, because their head is going to be all over the place. They ain't going to be able to portray that image of being the man of the Lord anymore, because they're getting, got a major prophecy. It would have been evident that they've got it wrong. It says that one shall say unto him, what are these wounds in thy hands? So these false prophets, they've got these huge congregations, and they've got a big entourage of many people around them. And when the MOTB, the microchip, gets made mandatory, it's going to be evident, and these false prophets are going to be deflated within their spirit. They're going to seem wounded, and all that zeal that they have at the minute to go out there and falsely prophesy is going to be gone. And the people around them that are close to them, the people in their entourage, are going to say, what are these wounds in thy hands? Why are you looking so spiritually beaten up? You're just deflated. Saying, I'm not a prophet, I just want to do a 9 to 5. He says, then he shall answer, those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. Okay, so these wounds have come from the house of your friends, because we're giving you the correct breakdown of the MOTB, and we're giving you the evidence and showing you how it matches up. We're showing you the current day events that are taking place and the developments in technology, things like the CBDC, that are taking you to the fulfillment of this prophecy. Yet these false prophets don't want to take it on board. So come that day, when they're wounded, when they're ashamed, when they say, I don't want to be a prophet, just leave me. Just give me a 9 to 5. I can't answer these questions no more. I have no other angle to say to you. I cannot deceive you anymore. I'm just going to have to say, yes, the MOTB is the microchip. GMS were right. And for many, many years, I've been teaching you false information. And that's why they're going to seem so wounded. And then he shall answer, those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends, because we're giving you the breakdown. We're your Israelite brothers, and we give you this information for your benefit, and you're going to know that as when it comes to pass, the Lord is going to make the whole world see it, and that's when these false prophets will be ashamed, wounded in the house of my friends, because we're your Israelite brothers, and we break it down for you, we show it to you, you don't want to hear it, and come that day you will be ashamed. 13:7 says, "Awake, O sword." So who represents the sword? These Edomites. They're blessed with the sword, and the nation of Edom are the whipping stick of the Most High. They're to whip the Israelites and the rest of the nations. It says, "Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man that is my fellow, saith the Lord of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn my hand upon the little ones." So, we were scattered through the diaspora, and because of that, Israelites have ended up all around the world. And even when it comes to the time of Jacob's trouble, Esau, Edom is going to awake and raise that sword, and Israelites are going to be under great threat. Their lives are going to be under great threat during that times of Jacob's trouble. And it says 13:8 says, "And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein." This applies to the nation of Israel. Only if you're an Israelite do you have a chance of deliverance in the day of the Lord. These other nations don't get that opportunity. And even within the nation of Israel, only the members of the elect will be delivered. And it says here 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, and the third be left therein to survive, be delivered in the day of the Lord and be instantly changed. Now, that's not an exact number, but it gives you an idea that more Israelites are going to die than be saved. Zechariah 13:9, because if you're one of the other nations, if you're a member of one of the other nations, then you could die in the upcoming destruction, World War III, in the day of the Lord, or you might survive and make it to the other side without dying into the kingdom of heaven. If you're of the other nation, you're going to go into captivity. So for a member of the other nations, you do actually have the chance to survive the day of the Lord and live it through. But if you're an Israelite and you're not going to be delivered, then you have to be killed. You have to be reborn in the kingdom of heaven, and you will have to do it all again. So, a lot of Israelites are going to die come the day of the Lord. This is Zechariah 13:9. "And I will bring the third part through the fire," the third part that will not receive that final judgment, "and will refine them as silver is refined." Because to refine silver, you have to burn it in the flame, "and will try them as gold is tried." So this fire represents the trials and tribulations that you go through, knowing this truth, especially when it comes to the time of Jacob's trouble. They're going to offer you this MOTB, and you're going to know that you've been an Israelite, member of the hopeful elect. You're going to avoid the MOTB and say, I'll go without it. I'll go without buying and selling. And, you put your faith in Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai, and you're going to go through certain temptations. It's known as the time of temptation. And so, you survive these particular instances, and you pull through with your faith, and you keep avoiding the things that you need to avoid. And, this is you being refined. We're going through situations at the minute. Throughout your life, you've been through various situations that have tried you, as if you've been going through a fire, and you've come out on the other side refined, more of a refined spiritual person. And Jacob's trouble is also a time for that. Then it says, "They shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Yahweh is my power." And that's what you're going to have to do in that time of Jacob's trouble. You're going to have that faith in that higher power, Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. And when they say to you, you can't buy or sell without this MOTB, you're going to have to ignore the governmental voice and have that faith on Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, that somehow you'll make it through that time without the microchip. So It's not a good time to be a false prophet breaking down these prophecies incorrectly. You know, the MOTB is on the way, human augmentation, and we're seeing the individual steps that are moving us along into that particular era. The CBDC is worldwide now, is well known worldwide, and this is all part of the diabolical plan of these banking elites, the Lex Luthor of this earth. And they've got this kryptonite, this MOTB. And if you're hoping to be delivered in the day of the Lord, you're hoping to survive the second death, be delivered, be instantly be changed, and instantly receive this spiritual power, then you need to steer clear of the kryptonite. That is the MOTB, the microchip. Revelation chapter 13, the MOTB. So I hope that's edifying, and I'll leave it right there. Until next time, I'm going to say all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakah Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.